Welcome back everyone to another spinning spinoff, Cobra Kai Watch Party! In part 1, we were looking at some of the potential spinoffs. There's a lot of cool possibilities. Here in part 2, we're going to cover the other few likely ones, as well as take a closer look at what will almost certainly be coming first. Another spinoff everyone would love to see is the Binary Brothers. They went off to Caltech together. They danced and celebrated their technology prowess, and their karate skills are unmatched. You know they would just own any fraternity they were in. Hawk is like an automatic admission. He brings his binary brother wherever he goes. They're in. But what do they encounter at Caltech? Rival technology gangs? Okay, it seems a little weird, but who cares? This is the Miyagi-verse. Weird is the name of the game. Between frat fights and technology, there could be a lot of fun stories to run with. It's about how they combine the styles with their brains to do something we've never seen before. Karate robot? Maybe. Of course, the other fun couple here is Louie and Anush. Louie and Anush have been side by side since the beginning and are basically really fun to watch together. I don't really know what a spinoff would be with them, working at LaRusso Auto, Cousin Ness coming in and out. It's sort of a fun idea that may not have potential for an entire show. Again, they're sort of like background characters in other people's show. The biggest problem with them is neither of them do karate. Now, they could learn, maybe Anush finally gets into it, but that feels like a little out of character. Anush wasn't that way, unless he thinks it impresses Cousin Ness, I don't know. They've always been more like the comedy relief, and that's where they could play in any spinoff. Of course, you have Johnny and Daniel, but again, Johnny and Daniel wouldn't really have a spinoff as Cobra Kai was already their spinoff. And since there's going to be no season 7, there's really no future for Johnny and Daniel. However, they're the consistent characters who could show up in other episodes. About Robbie and Tori, Miguel and Sam. Basically, anything can involve Johnny and Daniel in some way. In fact, if you imagine the Miyagi-verse with all these different stories going on at the same time, Johnny and Daniel are the ones who interweave in and out of the different stories. And that brings me to an idea Peter from Cobra Kai Companion had that may be the best of it all. If you look at all these different couples and characters, I'm not really sure any one of them has full potential for a series. Like 3 seasons? 30 episodes? It seems like a bit much. What you could have is different sort of almost mini-series for each one. A couple episodes about Miguel and Sam in Okinawa, just enough for them to go on an adventure in some abandoned castle. Robbie and Tori in the tournament circuit. Chosen and Sensei Kim, etc. Like Louie and Anush could make a really fun one-shot, right? It's like one long episode about their little story after the events of Cobra Kai. That's sort of the fun idea I prefer. So instead of having all these different spin-offs about all these different characters, it's sort of like one season where each character or group of characters gets an episode. I think something like that could be more interesting a few years down the line. We'll have to see. Could there be a Stingray spinoff? I've come to like the character, and he is a fan favorite among many, but I'm not sure he's the sort of person who would fuel his own spinoff. Again, he feels like another side character in other shows. I'd love to see him show up in a Hawk and Dimitri spinoff for some reason, and he'll always be sort of a thorn in Johnny's side. He's a lot of fun, and his dedication to Cobra Kai in the 80s will carry through anywhere he goes. Now, a little over a year ago, Hayden Schlossberg was talking about how he loved the idea of doing a young Terry Silver, or Dynatox episode. It's basically Silver in the 80s. He talked about how he was at the top of the world, conquered it. So how did he manage to do that? Obviously, you have to be doing something well if you're going to become a billionaire. You have to be doing something well to get so much power. Maybe he shows no mercy, but some people like what he's doing. It's a different take on Terry Silver that allows us to really see his full potential. I would be down for something like that. I don't know how an 80s period piece about young Silver would play, but he was awesome at karate, and we gotta see that. It ultimately brings us to what is most likely the first spinoff we will receive, young Mr. Miyagi. So much though, we already got an actor to play the part. He was right there in episode 10. This is really tremendous, and the Miyagi box left many, many clues that his story was long and still untold. Daniel didn't know everything about it. That's true, but that doesn't mean we can't know about it. How did Mr. Miyagi from the movies become the man he was? That's what's really important. Now, there's a lot of possibilities for where the Miyagi show will go. I suspect it'll mostly be about him after World War II. I think the first season may even be about Miyagi finding the man who stole his wife's necklace. There's a lot of potential there, especially with Miyagi's escape from the country. He probably worked with his war buddies, maybe even Jack Pierce. This is what the story may have been had Hilary Swank come on in season 6, but otherwise we heard it from Lucille, but now we'll see it play out firsthand. Miyagi got the necklace, but was now wanted. He had to flee to Boston and was able to hang out with his old friend and student. Then Jack Pierce gets him on a flight out of the country to Hong Kong, or maybe China. He has to stay there for a while so everything will blow over. He passes the time by joining a dojo in fighting in the Sekai Kai. That's where we get his entrance into the tournament. I suspect he was fighting basically to earn a living in a new country. You have to admit, karate and combat is his specialty. Why wouldn't he do what he's best at to get by? He's just being practical and pragmatic, so it makes sense to join a dojo. But ultimately from there, the show could be a very old Sekai Kai. Naturally, as the audience will be comparing from what we saw in season 6 to this old original version. Back then it was far more brutal. We could ultimately see what led to the match where Miyagi killed his opponent. The one thing I would speculate is it's not the final match. That would be why there are so many other results for that round. Now, did the tournament continue after the guy died? I suspect so. The question would be, did Miyagi continue? Was that the end of it for him, or did he keep plowing forward and win for his dojo? Another aspect of the death to consider is if it was an accident or somewhat intentional, like Miyagi was intentionally using his most deadly moves in the fight. Or did the fighter just spin the wrong way and fall into a hard headshot? That could likely influence how Miyagi feels about all of it. At some point, Miyagi will return and then become a silent partner in Page's gym. Very likely the other founder of Page was another war buddy. It was very common for World War II buddies to go off and start business together. They were lifelong friendships. It would make sense they all knew each other somehow during the war, and now they're helping each other out. In fact, maybe Page was one of the people Miyagi helped save, which won him the Medal of Honor. Either way, that is after he returns. I suspect his work on the gym would be like season 2 of the show. Each season may have a bit of a time jump, especially if the show is covering his whole life, from World War II to the first movie. Season 3 may be sometime during the 60s. That was a heck of a time in America. How did Miyagi handle it? Who knows? So I still think, and have been saying for years, the most likely spinoff we will get is young Mr. Miyagi. There he is. If you want other spinoffs, the first one has to be successful. That's simply the rule. If this one flops, Netflix is way less likely to want to do more. So if the first one is very successful and connects with people and gets the ratings, they'll keep it coming. You just gotta turn out and support it. Don't let it fall by the wayside like what happened with Obliterated. Top ratings, top videos, top content, drive the discussion. You know there's gonna be a lot of cool stuff about it anyway. So let's sit back and wait for Mr. Miyagi. I'll be here covering it when it arrives. Oh yeah, and there's that movie coming. That movie isn't going to have much impact on any spinoff. The movie has nothing to do with Netflix. And if there's going to be a spinoff of Cobra Kai, it's going to be from Netflix. So don't think supporting the movie supports any of the spinoff ideas. They're different entities. It's the Sony Picture Feature Film Division and then the Television Division. The fact that they share the same name and Ralph Macchio's in both is as much a coincidence as anything else. Go for the Miyagi spinoff. I will be covering all of it when it happens. Make sure you're subscribed. Have a great day. I'll see you the next watch party.